Councillor Castro, you want to speak for or against?
Yes.
You said you wanted to speak
Yes, please.
for or against? Against, then it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this matter was debated at length by the last council. This is the water body which is more commonly known as Black Swan Lake. Yes.
Well, in our asset is temporary retention tank.
Yes, but I mean that it's been sort of dubbed Black Swan Lake. So this is the same body of water that we spoke about at the last council in relation to. This is the question, because it looks to me from the map that this is the same body of water.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So this was debated at length, and Mr. Mayor, when you actually look at page 14 of the agenda, and it talks about the ongoing remediation works, and it talks about the total operational expenditure for 15-16 financial year was approximately $53,000. The combined actual and predicted operational expenditure for the 16-17 financial year is $25,000 to $40,000. Once all vegetation is established and only routine maintenance is required, the anticipated annual costs of subsequent years is between $12,500 and $18,500. So the actual cost of remediation works is actually incredibly low. I remember that the debate when we had this at the last council was how this was going to cost us $500,000, which has proven to be a little bit wide of the mark. Mr. Mayor, I was actually, along with former Councillor Shepherd, the two of us are the ones who actually pushed for the Gold Coast Show Society to actually go to the Turf Club, because we wanted to see the Gold Coast Show remain. There was a move at the time by the then state Labor government that it be moved from Parklands, which of course we lost due to the upcoming Com Games, that it be moved to Carrara. No one at the Show Society was happy about that. I wasn't happy about it for the simple reason that its floodplain goes under. It was just a rotten place, quite honestly. It just couldn't go there. It never would have survived there. You've also got a big bat colony there, when bats and horses really don't mix too well either. So to make sure that this was actually that the Gold Coast Show Society and the show could survive, we actually made representation to the Turf Club to say, hey, are you actually open to host this? So I'm a big supporter of the Gold Coast Show, and that's quite evident by those actions. However, this is totally wrong. This is totally wrong. This lake is home to hundreds and hundreds of birds, many species of birds. Mr. Mayor?
It is a point of order. It's not a lake, Councillor Castro.
Well, this body of water, whatever you want to call it, lake, body of water.
What's the asset? What's the asset?
I don't care what it's called, Mr. Mayor. I don't give
Well, you just call it a lake.
Okay, I'm now calling it a body of water, okay? It's a point of order over. So it's a body of water. This body of water, whether you like it or not, is home to hundreds of birds and many species of birds, including black swans. There was a lot of claptrap spoken by one of the councillors here saying there's only one black swan there and there's only ever been one black swan. You may recall I actually took a video and actually showed that video, and there were plenty of black swans and plenty of other birds that were there. Mr. Mayor, former councillors for Division 8 have been aware of the reasons. We know the reasons. In fact, Councillor Bowden has even mentioned the reasons for why there is poor water quality in this lake. At times, there's no poor water quality since we actually did what we should have done a long time ago and took responsible for this body of water, because it's on our land. So, Mr. Mayor, since we've done that, as you can see, there has been no issue with the quality of water, or only at times. We get times when there's heavy rains, etc., etc. We know what the cause is. The cause is there is storm water being directed into the lake. Councillor Bowden actually said, there's manure that's uncovered that's actually on properties that's adjacent to the lake, and all those nutrients are leaching. body of water, whatever you want to call it.
I'm just telling. I'll keep calling you.
Okay.
It's not a lake.
You can call it as many times as you like, Mr. Mayor. But the bottom line, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because so that's fine. I accept it's not a lake. But in the end, in essence, you know what I'm speaking about. We're speaking about the same body of water, and we're talking about the same body of water which is home to these birds. That doesn't change. Whatever you want to call it a bathtub. I don't really care what you call it. It doesn't change the situation and what this lake is used for. So that's the point that I'm trying to... This body of water is used for. So, okay. Who's that? What? But anyway, whatever. So, Mr. Mayor, regardless of whether, you're trying to throw me off my game and saying it's not a lake...
Not a lake?
I accept that. It's not a lake. But the fact is, it's a body of water. We'll go back to body of water. And the fact is, everything else I'm saying is fact. It doesn't matter what it is. This is about the environmental side of things, the fact that it's home to this bird life. The fact is the water quality is under control because we have actually taken action. Councillor Bowden just mentioned that this body of water, okay, is actually getting sawdust and other stuff dumped into it. Well, if that's the case, he actually said that's being thrown into the lake. Well, if it's being thrown into the lake or the body of water, whatever you want to call it, if the sawdust and whatever else is being dumped into the... I'll continue to call it a body of water here, okay, into the body of water, then that's an excuse to actually say, fill that body of water in. To me, that is actually something that we should be taking action against, because if that's being dumped into this body of water, and that is actually the home to that bird life, and it's not meant to be dumped in that body of water, then that is environmental vandalism. So why are we not taking action? If it's physically being taken and thrown in there, but not only... So I don't know if that's the case, but Councillor Bowden said that this stuff is being dumped in this body of water. So regardless of that, whether that's true or whether that's not true, we know the reasons for why we've had poor water quality in the past, and that is because of, as I say, stormwater being diverted, it's manure that's actually piled up with properties adjacent to the body of water, and when it rains that actually leaches into the water, and then we're getting all the nutrients in the water, etc., etc. The only other thing that I would say is that you may also recall that the RSPCA were very strong on this matter too, and said that if this body of water is actually, and notice I've actually said that about 5 or 6, 7 or 8 times in a row now without making the mistake of lake, but there's no mistake in the rest of my argument, which is the stuff that matters, is that if this body of water is actually filled in, then this would actually cause extreme trauma, and that probably a very large percentage, and maybe up to 40% of those birds will die. For the simple reason they're territorial, the trauma of actually having to move somewhere else in the area will actually kill these birds. Mr. Mayor, you can't just step in and say, okay, well, people are doing the wrong thing and dumping a load of crap in a body of water, so therefore we better actually fill it in, turn it into a car park. That's the way you actually deal with environmental, well, whether it's environmental vandalism or whether it's environmental bad practice, whatever you want to call it. So the way to actually do it is to continue to turn a blind eye and actually say, well, yeah, but, people are going to continue dumping this stuff in there, so let's just fill it in and turn it into a car park. Is that the way that this council wants to be remembered? I mean, seriously? I don't really think that's a good look. Nothing has actually changed except for the better since we last debated this issue, and that is the water quality is under control because finally this council took responsibility for something that it intentionally turned a blind eye to for many, many years because they knew what was causing the problem and the council ignored it. So I'd like to congratulate the last council for finally standing up and doing something about it, and I would like to think that this council will be responsible enough to make sure that this doesn't happen because it's totally wrong.
First up, Councillor Castro, when you say that this issue was debated at length, there's other issue that was debated at length, and I allowed it to be revisited because we got new councillors. I recall recently regarding our parks being used for animals, circus, right? That was debated at length at the last...
Order, Mr Mayor.
Just a second.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. You're now debating.
Please sit down. I am finished. I am finished.
Point of order.
Could you please sit down?
I thought with a point of order you let me put the point of
Sit
order
down
first.
so I can finish, so you can...
Okay, well,
you
that's
can
your
come up.
ruling. It might be incorrect.
Because what I'm saying is, even when an issue is debated at length, when we have a new election with new council, they can come back and analyse that issue and debate on it and vote on it. So it's not relevant how long an issue was debated at last council if a councillor wants to bring an issue up. Okay? Now you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I never said that. I'm not complaining about that. I have every right to bring it back. I never said there was no right to bring it back. I was just pointing out the fact that this was debated at length at the last council. Nothing wrong with bringing it back. I never said there was an issue with that. I was just pointing out the fact that that happened. That's all it was. It was just historical. Nothing wrong with it. I quite agree with you, Mr Mayor. There's no reason why it shouldn't come back. I'm just pointing out there's nothing has changed except for the better, because the water quality is now a lot better. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
No, well, what's changed is Councillor Baildon has raised the issue and that he's concerned about the Gold Coast show and the survival of our long term for the Gold Coast show. Am I right? That would be your main motivation, I would imagine, Councillor Baildon?
Yes, but also I pointed out the danger to the wildlife by being in that particular precinct, in that borrow pit.
Okay, so it's up to him to bring it up.
Sorry, I agree with you. I'm not debating. I don't have an issue with that. Thank you.
A point of clarification, please, Mr Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
And the clarification is we were told that there's been no change. Clearly, Councillor Locastra hasn't read his agenda. The results show there's been no significant change in water quality. This is our report. He didn't read it. There's been no change in the last 12 months. And he should read the report where it says, where the experts say, EcoSure, say that the bird deaths in recent years can be attributed to an outbreak of botulism, which is in the lake, in the water body.
Now, look, we go backwards and forwards. We're picking and choosing lines in there. What I'm saying is the remediation works are working. They are working.
Read your agenda.
Nothing. Yeah, never mind. Well, it sounds like the debate's already been had, so should be a speaker against Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Vorster?
I'd like to